back to my channel. Welcome. For everyone watching new, welcome. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you like what you see, you like what you hear, you like my energy, all the stuff I got going on. And welcome back to those of you who are already subscribed, but you are here not to listen to me, but to see my merch, right? So today, as the title says, I got my Juvia's Place foundation, concealer, and I got a makeup palette, because if I'm gonna pay all that shipping, I wanna make it worth it. So let's get into the video. All right, so this package has not been opened. I'm opening it now, so we are going to see what's inside. So it comes in this brown box, of course. And then this is what's inside. So we have our foundation, which I hope and pray to God that this is the right one. I got the Accra, A-C-C-R-A. I also got a concealer. This is the Magic Concealer number 13. And then I also got a makeup palette. Now I know a lot of people complain about Juvia's Place and they said that their palettes come broken, etc. But this is how I got mine. It was in the bottom of the box and it was bubble wrapped. So we're gonna check that one out first. Just, you know. So I got the Tribe by Juvia's. We'll go ahead and get it open. Go ahead and open it. And the palette itself comes bubble wrapped. So it seems like they really take precaution in protecting it. So this is double bubble wrapped. You can see. So I take it out of that. And we'll see for the first time. Shaw. So here she is. Now, I love this palette for the colors. Of course, I'm trying to branch out in my color game. And I thought that this would be a great combo since I like to stick around browns. But we will do some color swatches on a later video because today is about the foundation and the concealer. So the foundation, I'm excited. I hope this is my color. So the foundation, as you know, this comes in sort of a lotion bottle, which I'm nervous about because I like a pump. I don't like to wipe things off or try to get things out of the tube because I find that it is a bit messy in this container. But we will give her a go. It has one of those protective little coverings. Okay, so we'll put the cap back on. And, oh no. Well, just like squeeze it around to make sure it's mixed. And so it just says, I am Magic. It's a velvety matte foundation. So of course with anything matte, the key is to make sure you are moisturized underneath. It's a full coverage. Apply product with a wet beauty sponge or synthetic makeup brush with a sweeping and buffing motion all over the face. So let's wet our beauty blender and let's be right back. All right, so we are back. We have a wet sponge and let's put the concealer down. I'm going to put a little bit of product here on my hand and I don't know, it looks a bit dark to me, which I was afraid of, but we're going to check it out. Okay, so we'll get a little bit on our sponge and apply it to the face. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Originally, I wasn't gonna do a full face, but I think to like really get an accurate reading from this makeup, I'm going to have to, because just a little patch, I can't really tell. It seems to be a tad darker, which I didn't want to go too light because I'd rather be an even darker tone than kind of an iffy lighter tone, if that makes sense. But this seems to have like an undertone of like an olive color. I don't know. And none of the Ultas in my area are carrying it. They've even said they don't know if they're even gonna get it. So I'm kind of bummed about that. I was noticing that a lot of people said that you only need a little bit of product, but with a wet beauty blender like I have, it seems to be soaking up the product. So you kind of do need, you know, more than just a little dot on your hand. But it definitely feels like a full coverage. Let's get a little bit more. And I'm only putting at a time just a little dot on my hand. But it does seem like, I don't know, I'll have to go a little bit lighter. But I know it's full coverage when that little dot, that little blemish I had right here is like barely noticeable. That to me says full coverage foundation for sure. And I haven't had a full coverage foundation since I was using Kat Von D's foundation many moons ago before switching to Fenty, which I love Fenty and I don't use anything other than that. But every now and then I did wish Fenty was more full coverage. So I think we have it blended in. I'm going to move to like a more natural light and you guys can tell me if you think it matches. I think it's a tad bit darker, but to be honest, I'm not really hating it all that much. I think it matches. So this is it just swatched on like my chest, but it kind of looks, I don't know, it kind of looks like it matches. But it's definitely full coverage. You can barely see that dark spot that was on my cheek. All right, so now that we have that blended in, I don't know, I kind of like it. I feel like it is a skosh too dark, like just the skosh. But to be honest, I kind of like it. I'd rather be, like I said, darker than an iffy lighter. But if I do, which I do plan on reordering this foundation, just because I do love the full coverage. You can kind of see that dot if you rewind the video. This dot is a little darker where I had like an ingrown hair right here. And this foundation, I'm pretty sure if I dab a little bit more, you could barely see it. Beautiful thing about this foundation is that it doesn't feel like a heavy foundation. Like Kat Von D's foundation felt like I was wearing foundation, like it was makeup on my skin. This just kind of feels like a light foundation where it's full coverage, but it doesn't feel heavy, which is awesome in my opinion. But yeah, you see how that dot's gone? You just kind of see how like it's evened out. So I don't know, I'm liking it. I'm liking it. Not liking my hair right now, but I'm liking this foundation. So now we're gonna go with the concealer. So it comes in this bottle and it claims, it says, I Am Magic Concealer, Conceal Imperfect. It's a creamy, radiant concealer, smooths and cancels out dark circles, blemishes, and skin imperfections. So we'll just see about that. All right, so we're gonna open her up. So you do, it kind of gives me Tarte, it kind of gives me Tarte Shape Tape Concealer vibes. And so it looks, I mean, let's just do a swatch on our hand. It kind of looks light, I don't know. I'm a little scared, but we are gonna go with it. This was the color, what did I say this was? The color 13 for my skin. I don't like to put a lot of concealer under my eye, as I put a lot of concealer under my eye, but I like to give it room to blend out. So let's just start there. And then I take sort of the angled end of my beauty blender, which is still damp by the way, and then I'm just gonna blend it in. So first impressions of me blending it in, it blends in so creamy and so smooth. I feel like with the Tarte, it gets kind of sticky and it's harder to blend even when it's like sitting on there a little bit. It feels patchy under my skin, so I can definitely say that I'm replacing my Tarte Shape Tape with this concealer, because this concealer is like a full coverage concealer, if that makes sense. It feels thinner. It looks thinner than Tarte, but it is blending out effortlessly. Like I'm not even pressing. With the Tarte, I feel like I have to press in my skin to get it to go in, but this is just like smoothing out, which is really nice. And I don't feel like I'm losing on any of the coverage. Like, look at that. And of course I would get a different number if I wanted maybe like a brighter, but I don't really think I have to go lighter than this. Okay, I think she is set. Set it and forget it. Let's do a little here and here and here and put it everywhere. I don't know. So we are just gonna blend this in, and like I said, I am barely putting pressure on this beauty blender, and it is blending this concealer in. Like, you can just kind of see it is melting in my skin, which is really nice. I'm going to set this with some powder, and then I'm going to put it in a natural outside light, because I feel like this is a little bit yellow from my ring light for some reason. Maybe it could just be me, but I'm going to go outside and show you what it looks like outside, and then we will get into some swatches of this palette and we will wrap it up. Alrighty guys, so this is the foundation and concealer in natural lighting. I am outside and I am loving it so far. I mean, it doesn't feel like there's makeup on my face, and I feel like there's a full coverage, like with my dot that you can barely see. This concealer is like the perfect color, which I was so nervous about. Like I said, I do feel like this foundation is a tad darker, so when I do reorder, I will try the lighter one and compare and see if it's just the lighting or just me, or maybe it's just my skin in the summer. But this is how it looks. I'm probably gonna keep this on all day and do a follow-up video later on. I'm not sure yet, but or maybe just on a later day when I have all day to record. But tell me what you think in the comments below. Do you feel like it's too dark? Do you feel like this is my color? I don't know. All right, so let's get into my final thoughts. Alrighty guys, we are back. So here are my final thoughts about the Juvia's Place foundation and concealer. As I said before, I got the color Accra, which I believe may be a tad darker, but it doesn't seem to be like a really big contrast against my skin. So I'm going to keep this one and order one more, just one shade lighter, just to see if there's that much of a difference. But I think this one works for now. As far as the concealer, I by far am replacing my Tarte Shape Tape with this concealer. This concealer is very creamy, as it says, but also I feel like it blends way better than the Tarte on my skin, in my opinion. On the Tarte, I feel like I'm pressing it into my skin and you can see like the outlines. Like, I feel like it doesn't move as easy. And I do wet my beauty blender with all of my makeup application, but this one I felt was thinner, but it also blended out easier. And so I love this. I love this. I will be ordering more of this color because I feel like this was the perfect color for me. And so yeah, that's all I have to say. This concealer alone is worth getting. The foundation, like I mentioned before, this dark dot was very dark, but even with just one application, you can barely see it. And I put just a little bit more of it on just in this one spot, and it is gone. I feel like this is a very full coverage foundation. However, it doesn't feel like you're wearing a heavy foundation on your skin. So it's it gives me Fenty vibes in the aspect that it's very lightweight, but it doesn't feel so heavy on my skin where, and of course I am in a hot state and during the summer, so you know, I don't want to feel like my face is weighed down, because of course I wipe my face when I sweat. But if I have something to do or I want to have a done up face, especially for work, this is gonna be my go-to, because I get that full coverage without the I'm wearing makeup look, if that makes sense. So these two I think are going to be a buy for me. So a yes, 2 big thumbs up. If not for the concealer alone, 2 great products. I think they were definitely on the mark with these as far as the color range they have for us brown beauties, and as well as how they numbered their products. So we're not always scrolling to the bottom of the list trying to look for our color. It is right there up front. We are the priority. That's what it says to me, the consumer. We're the priority for once. Our color is right at the beginning. No scrolling all the way, praying that they have more than 2 rows of brown and then like dark brown, if that makes sense. So I really applaud Juvia's for doing that. I was a little thrown off because I'm normally in like the 390-ish, 400 range, and I still have to scroll all the way to the bottom, of course, but it was right there up front. So I'm like, oh, okay, these numbers are really throwing me off, because I normally like to stay in a range with all the other makeup, but this one I was right up front. So that's why it was such a guess on this foundation, because I'm not used to being at the top of the list. So, you know, that was like a big ego boost for me. That was a big ego boost for me, but at the same time, it kind of threw me a little bit. So you have to kind of play around with the numbers to see what's your new number with Juvia. Quickly, we're gonna get into this palette. As I've shown you before, this beautiful, beautiful green palette. It has colors like Ormo, Tootsie, Cuba, Changa, Coro, Ashanti, stuff like that. So we're gonna get a little swatch on our finger. So I feel like, one, you can't really tell when you do swatches with your finger because you're not wearing makeup on your hand, right? Even though this looks a little bit thinner, I think with concealer and it going on your eye, it will be beautiful. Let's try Changa, which I am always a fan of Juvia's Place palettes. Look at that. Now this is definitely a thicker eyeshadow, and it is very shimmery, and I love that color. Let's try Curla, I think is how it's pronounced. So look at that. That is gorgeous. And let's try this Cuba right here. This is more of a grittier one, but I feel like it's going to be thick as well. So look at that. Look at that. That is really pretty. And let's try this Coro just because I want to see it. Look at that. OMG, guys. So I feel like this palette was definitely worth a buy, in my opinion. The colors, of course, are going to look a little bit different on your eye than on your hand. But just on the first pass on some of these, I feel like it is going to be beautiful once I kind of get familiar with trying bold colors, like I said before. And I'm just very excited to get into the world of color. So thank you guys for tuning in. As always, it's been a pleasure. I've been so excited waiting all week. Of course, you know how it feels when you wait on a package. It feels like it takes forever to get here, but it is finally here. I'm going to keep this foundation and concealer on and just see how it wears over the day, which I'm not really like a sweater or anything like that or have oily skin. So how it looks is typically like how it's gonna look throughout the day unless I go out in the heat and sweat. So don't do that. But again, thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate every view I get, every like, every comment, etc., etc. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye.